Most people would have driven right past that place. You know what I mean? On a night so cold your breath would hang in the air like tiny ghosts, headlights flicking across a half-dead road, nobody in their right mind wanted to travel after dark, much less slow down for a castle that looked more haunted than historic. This old pile of stone sat hunched on the edge of town, windows clouded over with years of neglect, towers bending like old men with too many stories to tell. And if you listened to the kids, there were plenty of stories, ghosts, disappearances, curses, but grown folks, well, they learned to keep their heads down and their mouths shut. Except for Deputy Jack Turner, who saw something he couldn't ignore that November night. A German shepherd, storm gray, sharper and more alert than any stray you'd see in these parts, sitting right there at the rusted gates, eyes fixed on the castle door, as if guarding it or maybe daring something inside to come out. Jack should have kept driving. That's the truth. His shift was almost over, his wife waiting at home. The heater in his cruiser barely keeping out the chill, but as he rolled past, that dog just burned itself into his mind. Didn't blink, didn't move, just stared with those amber eyes like he knew some secret Jack was supposed to figure out. The whole drive home, Jack couldn't shake it. The feeling that the dog wasn't hungry or lost, wasn't begging for food or warmth, but was on duty, watching, waiting for something or someone inside that castle. Next night, same thing, Jack's curiosity dragging him back down that frozen stretch of road. He parked this time, stepping out into the biting air, boots crunching over brittle grass, the dog acknowledging him with nothing more than a slight turn of the head, but those eyes never leaving the castle door, locked in like a soldier refusing to abandon his post. By the fourth night, a storm swept in, rain whipping sideways, cold cutting straight through his uniform. But Jack's wipers cleared a space just wide enough for him to see the shepherd, soaked to the bone and still planted at the gate. That did it. Jack killed the engine, stepped out, let the rain soak through his jacket, and tried to coax the dog toward shelter, but the animal barely responded, just glanced at Jack and then right back at the door, whining low, as if trying to say, "You're not listening." Back at the precinct, the story got laughs. A haunted mutt guarding a haunted castle. What else was new? But one old-timer, Sergeant Miller, didn't laugh. Said that castle hadn't had an owner in decades. Nothing but code violations and rumors. Jack shrugged it off, but in the pit of his stomach, that unease gnawed a little deeper. Jack named the dog Storm, because that's what fit. A force of nature that didn't bend, didn't leave, not for rain, snow, or bitter cold. Every night Storm was there, and Jack, for reasons he couldn't explain, kept coming back. By the seventh night, everything changed. This time, Storm was pressed hard against the gate, body rigid, teeth bared, growl rolling out from deep in his chest. Jack slowed, heart pounding, and when Storm barked, just once, sharp and urgent, Jack felt every hair on his neck stand up. He crossed the road, flashlights sweeping across the castle, the beam catching nothing but empty windows and sagging stone. But still, something was wrong, and Storm was trying to show him. Jack knew working dogs, had partnered with enough K9s to spot the signs. This wasn't fear, it was warning, focus, duty. Next morning, he tried to push for a warrant, but the brass wouldn't have it. No probable cause, nothing but a gut feeling and a weird dog. Nights blurred together, but Jack kept at it, and Storm never moved. Then, a bitter Tuesday, something flickered in an upper window, a shadow, there and gone. And that was all Jack needed. He demanded a welfare check, any excuse to get inside. The warrant finally came on a Friday, so thin it might as well have been written on a napkin, but it was enough. Jack brought two young deputies, Vega and Collins, both nervous, both joking about ghosts as they loaded up. At the gates, Storm was waiting, barking sharp, then sprinting toward the door, tail rigid, every muscle saying go. The castle's doors groaned open, stale air rolling out thick with mildew and something far worse. Inside, it was a mausoleum, grand hall sagging under decades of dust, chandelier hanging by a thread, torn curtains fluttering in the draft, but Storm wanted none of it. He led them down a tight corridor, past abandoned rooms and collapsed bookshelves, until he stopped at a door hidden behind a rotting tapestry. The door was ice cold. Jack wedged it open with a crowbar, and behind it, a spiral staircase wound down, the air thick with rot and something metallic. Storm led the way, descending with the kind of purpose only a dog on mission has, and at the bottom, they found a corridor lined with doors. Storm sniffed each one, pausing at one halfway down. Jack pressed his ear to the wood, a faint scrape inside, like something or someone moving. He forced the door open. Inside was a bare stone room. Caught in the corner, walls covered in scratches, dozens, hundreds, tally marks and desperate pleas for help to eye in the dust. A fresh trail led to the wall. Storm barked, pawing at a loose stone. It shifted under Jack's hand, revealing a hidden panel, and beyond it, a darkness so thick it felt alive. They pushed inside, flashlights shaking, finding a maze of bunks and bunks, each holding the debris of life. Shoes, cups, blankets, until Storm froze, barking again. I stared back, dozens, blinking in terror. 37 young women, alive but battered, clinging to hope as Storm and Jack broke the spell. Whispers filled the air. They found us. We're safe. But relief melted to fear when one whispered, "He's still here." The evacuation was chaos. Girls ushered out, deputies covering every exit, radios whispering frantic orders. But in the dark, doors slammed quietly, footsteps echoed in unseen tunnels, and Jack knew it wasn't over. He and Storm doubled back, tracing fresh tracks, finding a hidden crawl space wired with traps. A panic room for someone who never planned to be caught. In the dark, Storm lunged, cornering a man as nondescript as a ghost. Calm, eyes flat, giving nothing but a thin smile. The search turned up nothing but more secrets. Fresh mortar, sealed rooms, a laminated card with a QR code that meant nothing to any of them. The man gave no answers. "I was waiting for the builder," he said, voice steady as ice. The castle, it turned out, held more than they'd found. Ground-penetrating radar found new chambers, some empty, some sealed. Rumors swept town, cult, traffickers, something older and worse. But Jack trusted only what Storm told him. It wasn't finished. Even after the news crews left and the suspect was locked up, Storm wouldn't rest. At Jack's house, he patrolled the yard, eyes scanning the dark, nose twitching at every unfamiliar scent. Days passed. When Jack finally drove out to the castle again, Storm went straight to a new plywood-covered window, barking, growling, refusing to leave. More crews came, more secrets emerged, a ledger full of names, a cloak still damp, chains still warm to the touch. But the story refused to resolve, wouldn't give them a tidy ending. Even after every girl was accounted for, even after the last ambulance rolled out, Storm would stare at the castle's black maw as if waiting for another order, another life to save. Jack knew better than to dismiss it. Sometimes, the ones who built these nightmares don't leave fingerprints, just shadows. That night, with Storm at his side, Jack stared out into the trees, feeling the weight of unfinished business. Somewhere out there, another piece of the puzzle waited. And in the cold November air, Jack realized some stories aren't about happy endings. They're about not giving up, not looking away when the world gets dark. So let me ask you, if you were standing in Jack's shoes, would you trust the dog and go back in, or would you let the darkness keep its secrets? Drop your thoughts below, because sometimes justice is just the beginning.